Big warm welcome. Have you tried EFT tapping for manifesting more money? You gave up because it just didn't work. In that case, you're in the right place today. So welcome again. Today, I have the huge privilege of chatting about this to Steve Wells. And he's someone that I've been admiring for at least 15 years since I started my own tapping training. Steve is a leadership coach, a recovering psychologist, he says, creator of Intention Tapping, author, and Aussie. Welcome, Steve. It's such a privilege to have you, really.
Thank you, Liesl. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So, Steve, recently you shared an article in your newsletter about the myths that can abound in the spiritual law of attraction, woo-woo world, sometimes about money that should come to us effortlessly and we can sit on the couch and tap for it and it'll just arrive. And you had a different take in your newsletter that I appreciated very much. And here we are having this conversation. So I'm going to share the actual question that somebody asked and then a little bit about your response, and we'll go from there. So the question was, the person said, I've been tapping for over a week for income with multiple YouTube clips every day, but just for income and nothing else. So far, I'm not seeing any results. My family is low income, so could it be that my family history is a barrier? And your response was really valuable to shed some light on some things that we may need to consider differently here. So you said, when you say results, do you mean changes in your income or changes in your feelings, emotions, and beliefs about your income? Tapping does not work on the former. But if you apply it to the latter, then you can make all the changes you need to transform your income. I love that. Can you expand on that a little bit, just where your thoughts go at the moment? So what is this tapping for income versus tapping for thoughts, beliefs, feelings?
Well, first of all, because if you see your income as just like what comes to you from out there and it's all something magical or whatever, rather than being a function of what you do and how you go about things. And yeah, your energy and all that stuff, this is where, I shudder a little bit because I know some of my friends who teach about law of attraction, and even some of the things that I used to teach, people are going to be going, hey, what do you mean it can't influence income? Well, it can influence income, but I believe the way that it influences that is through influencing you to change the way you feel and the way you act. And action is part of it. I'm big on action. A lot of other people are saying you can just manifest everything you desire and the world will come to you. Well, not often all that much. And most of the people that are doing this, that's why they're getting frustrated, because it just isn't actually happening for them, because it isn't just coming from doing nothing. So the best thing to me is, yeah, change your vibration. Yeah, change the way you feel. Yeah, release your beliefs and blocks and all that stuff that's getting in the way. And that's getting in the way from you being able to do something about it, because doing something about it is what is more likely to produce results. And people who are getting themselves to do things are lapping the field in terms of results. Even the ones that aren't thinking all the wonderful manifestation thoughts and stuff like that. In fact, if you look at, because I've done so much work in the corporate area, and a lot of these people, they don't all believe a lot of this stuff that, a lot of my friends and colleagues in the new age world and the alternative world and the tapping world that actually believe. And yet there they are going ahead manifesting money anyway, without their perfect thinking and without their perfect vibration. And just because they've worked out, that, hey, if I buy this thing for $2 and I sell it for $10, then I make a profit, and the more people that I sell it to, the more, that I get. And the more value that I give to other people, the more that comes back to me, and all the things that really work.
Yes. That's, in fact, you touch on such an important point there. Is it's always fascinated me, like, Elon Musk or the guy from Virgin Media, they haven't done all this the energy work, tapping work. Well, I don't know for sure. Maybe they have, and they're just not saying. But there is a area that is almost hidden to us about this stuff that we can believe about. You have to do all this work to get your energy right, like your vibration right. Well, some people's vibration are clearly not the kind of vibration that I would like to have, but they make lots of money anyway. So it's not all about that.
That's right, because money doesn't necessarily have, differentiate these things. Now, people do. So if if you approach people in a positive way, when you relate to them, then they tend to relate positively back to you. It's a reciprocal thing. And this is the other side of money that some of this philosophy just does away with, because apart from the people that inherit money or the people who win money, or people who get money through gambling, the people who are making money reliably in this world, like through their business or through their labor, are actually doing it by creating value for other people. They've come up with a way to create greater value for other people, and so people pay for value. And so it's a reciprocal thing. It's like, come on, this is just basic stuff. Like, a society runs because everybody contributes. And then when you contribute, we actually pay you to contribute. Like you do something for us and then you get something back for you. And some of this philosophy just does away with that. And I don't like that aspect of it. So maybe I should tap on that.
We can both do a bit of tapping on that, because I have some resistance to that too. So releasing resistances to that. But there is just something almost, the word that popped up for me was almost obscene, or, the idea that we can just sit on a couch and, lots of money will come to us for doing absolutely nothing. It's not the way nature works. It's not the way lots of things in life work. So why would that be the case with money?
Well, look, I can understand how this comes, and I think we do have an influence, and our energy does have an influence, and things do come to us. Sometimes, you're lucky and things just happen, and sometimes you can link it to, well, I shifted this and that happened, and all right, well, that also happens in random systems. But also, let's say it does happen, but it's not a reliable way of doing it. The people who are reliably, like, I've had unexpected money come to me as well, but I don't depend on it for an income source,
Right. Yes, there's the difference. I think you just pointed in something very important. There is the reliability of, can you depend on these magical instances?
And how good are we at doing this? If we can manifest things in the world, how good are we at doing this? And yes, our beliefs have a part to play. But I was reading something the other day, I think it was Mark Manson, maybe it was someone else. I get a lot of newsletters from different people, so I might be mixing them up. Apologies if that's the case, but this person was saying, beliefs do have an effect, and we can show that beliefs have an effect on getting better from illnesses and all kinds of things. And yet, so far, nobody who's believed that they could fly has done that successfully. So there's a thing where we can use the power of belief, and then there's a thing where we have to deal with the realities of the world that we live in as they are. And that kind of accepting the way things are and working with what is what makes things work. So it's not that you can't change the way things are, but you've got to start from where you are. You've got to start with the world that you have. Everybody wants to go from zero to $10 million without any work. Mostly it's resistance. And look, I can talk because I have resisted work my whole life. I want everything to come to me without having to work hard. And a lot of things have come to me without having to work. I've manifested a lot in my life, but usually if I look at where that's come from, it's because I'm moving, I'm taking action, I'm doing other things which lead to other things, which lead to things coming. And that's where it happens. If you're skating and you're moving, then the chance that the puck is going to come to you is much higher.
Absolutely. I love that you say that about moving. It's about even starting a process, and things can roll along on the way. There can be a clear runway for it and it can take off. But if nothing moves, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Um, Husband and I were just having a brief conversation about this topic this morning. And he said to me, well, what about this? He's invested some money. That money is growing anyway. He's not doing anything right now to make it grow. But I said to him, but you took the first step. If
Of
it
course he did.
wasn't in that market and you put it there, it couldn't be doing that right now.
Of course he did. And in fact, how did he get the money to invest?
Yeah. He wasn't on the couch.
And by the way, even that, everyone wants passive money. I want passive money, and I have had money come in while I sleep and all that kind of stuff. If you set up the systems and you have the right strategies and so on to do that. But you know what? He's not going to just leave that investment. If that investment starts going south, he's going to change the mix, or he's going to put it in another investment, and it isn't going to just happen just from him, sitting at home and vibrating, is like imagining that investment is always going to be going up, and that particular mix is always going to work, and so on.
Yes. Yes, that's a good point. There's something in that about controlling the outcome. It's like, I'm just going to sit here and think thoughts and it will control what that investment will do. It's just not how it works, right?
Now, well, it also, one of the challenges with that philosophy, like my jury is out on some of that, and I'm willing to believe that we can have an influence, okay? That we're connected to the universe, that we're all part of this system and all that kind of stuff. Scientists have proven that a butterfly flapping its wings can conceivably make a difference on the other side of the world. But I don't know, an elephant might make a bigger difference, and you make a bigger impact, and it might make a bigger effect, and stuff like that as well. So I'm willing to accept that. Let's work on our vibration. Let's work on getting ourselves, but also let's have some works to prove our faith. In a way, I think sometimes the universe, if you want to, people always talk about the universe or universal intelligence or spirit or whatever, however you conceive of what's out there. And universe became a buzzword for God because people have all these different negative associations to that term and so on. But everybody's got their own belief about what's causing this, or what energy is causing this, or whatever, what brings things into being. Okay. Well, I don't think that's necessarily your thoughts, because if every thought that you had manifested, my gosh, what a mess the world would be. Just be chaos. And I know that. I was attached to various thoughts in the past that were just BS. They were belief systems that were just wrong and inappropriate, and stopping me from seeing all kinds of possibilities. Working on your beliefs, working on your energy, getting yourself into a good space, that's all great. And you have to have a strategy, and you have to do things that work. And there are just some things that just human nature. Like fundamentally with money, it doesn't matter how much money you bring in. If you spend more than you earn, you're going to end up poor. If you, and billionaires have done this. They've managed to find out that they could run out of money,
Right. Basic principle, in and out.
Yeah. But also you look at the thing, and now you get scared of having any negative thoughts, and the philosophy is that you've always got to be thinking positively and feeling positively. Well, you know what? Sometimes you don't feel like doing the work, and yet you get yourself to do it anyway, and then you get the reward. And that's some of the things that are going to give us the most benefit, are things where we've got to get over our negative associations to them to be able to do stuff. And then they pay off in bucket loads for when we're able to do that. And all right, so just another, sorry, you're stimulating me to think about lots of different aspects of this. Tell me if I'm going too far out on a tangent. The other side of it is that you've always got to be positive, and the belief is that everyone who makes money is always positive. And that's bunk. A lot of them are not positive at all a lot of the time. And supposedly, if you frame things negatively, you're going to not manifest. Well, I like to use the example of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has made, I don't know how many billions of dollars for himself and for people who've invested in his company. Do you know what his number one rule is? Don't lose money.
Oh, right.
Now, you should never frame anything like that, right? That's so
Yes,
negative.
the don't. Yes.
Yeah. And yet it's his number one rule. Richard Branson, when he buys he buys a company, he talks about his first question is, how do I protect against the downside? That's his first question in a new company. Like when he got his planes for his airline, he actually made a deal with Boeing that if it didn't work, they would buy them back. So wow. His first thing was about, how do I protect myself from losing money? How do I protect the downside? That's his question. Right. Well, isn't that negative?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, say, law of attraction or some forms of it actually teaches us. Don't think about that stuff, for Pete's sake. But if you just do not let your thoughts go there. And here we see people with huge amounts of money that think about the risk. It's just merely, for me, it's thinking about the risk. I work with Clifton Strengths Finder, and one of the talents there is deliberative, which always wants to mitigate the risk. So I think it's just so careful.
So anti what being human is like, because scientists have looked at all different cultures all over the world. They've found that it's universal for human beings to project negative possibilities in their mind. It happens in every culture around the world, and it happens, and we do this universally. They believe it's conferred an evolutionary advantage on us to be able to think about all the things that might go wrong, so that we can work out how to deal with it. So it's not thinking about those negative worst case scenarios that's the problem. In fact, people like Branson deliberately think about the worst case scenarios, but they don't live in them. They don't connect to them. They don't get hooked into them. They look at them as a possibility and then work out how they will deal with them. So the problem is assuming that just the thinking is the issue. It's not just the thinking, it's actually believing the thoughts that's the problem.
Right. That there's so much richness in this. I mean, I could ask so many questions, because the one thing that pops up is, yes, so just merely considering the possibility that there could be a pitfall here doesn't make it that it's going to happen. If I sit in that and don't take a single action, different story, but I can consider it, make a plan and say, well, if that happens, here's what I'll do.
Yeah. And ideally, it is great to, if you find yourself worrying about that stuff all the time, to release your attachments to that, and to not have to believe those beliefs and stuff like that. But you know what? Millions of people who are very rich worry all the time like that. It doesn't stop them from manifesting money. So the belief that there's a direct relationship between that and their results isn't the case, because despite their worries, they manage to get themselves to do the things that work anyway. And that's the big difference. There was a guy named Gray, E.M. Gray. I don't know what the E.M. stands for, but he wrote an essay called the Common Denominator of Success. And he looked at high performers in his industry, which was insurance. And he came up with this essay, and he said the people who are successful, quite simply, they do the things that people who are not successful won't do. And here's the thing he said, they don't necessarily like doing them either. But their disliking is subordinated to the strength of their purpose. In other words, the value that, it's part of an important value to them, or the value of what they're going to get from it is more important to them than what they have to go through to do it. And this is the same thing for the people who go to the gym. You know, they're able to get themselves to go to the gym despite the fact that they don't feel like it. And then they go, now, if they had to sit at home and it's like, oh, I don't feel like it, that therefore must mean that I don't really want it. Nah, you want the result. You just have to get over, there are some things in life that you've got to go through outside the comfort zone in order to be able to change them.
Yes, yes, such a valid point. And that now brings me back to the original question that was discussed in your newsletter is, so if we can't tap on, you know, income, let's talk about sort of how would we use this then for
Well,
anybody
I'm not
knowing
saying
tapping.
you can't tap on income. You can.
Yes.
I'm just saying that that's not going to be the only thing. I'm saying, yeah, change the way, because you tap on your beliefs about income, your emotional attachments to the concept of income, your limits to what you believe is possible for you in terms of income. And then when you open up to new possibilities, then you're going to be thinking, okay, now I believe that I can have more and that I can earn more and that I it's not because I don't deserve more, and that's all BS from my childhood and so on. Now, okay, yeah, I do want the house on the beach. I do want this. I do want that. You know, get to the point where you can admit that you want that, and then even decide to have it. And then now you're going to have to do the tapping on getting yourself to make a plan and do something about it.
Right. So I'm hearing multiple layers here. So I'm wanting sort of a, not a step-by-step recipe, but just so people understand there's layers here that we can work through with EFT that all has a bearing. There's so many multiple factors that can be addressed with EFT. And
well, let me give it to you. Okay, so it's in my book, which just is strategically placed over my shoulder here, in a mark, you know, a
in red too.
subtle marketing or what's the word? Anyway, in 100% Yes, and you can find stuff that I've done on this online for free. So you can go online and look at my YouTube, and you can find 100% Yes webinars and coaching programs, and you can get the basic framework and techniques from there, and you can learn that for free. So you don't even have to buy it. But the basic process is, number one, decide what you want. Number two, decide to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to have to release your attachments to all the beliefs that you can't have it, and you know, so the minute you decide, you'll have all these blocks and barriers that will come up and all this resistance that comes up, and that's where we do the tapping. We do the tapping on the resistance to that, and then get clear that, you know, this fits with your values, that your personal values, because so many people, they spend their whole life climbing the ladder of success. You know, I don't know who made this up. I wish I came up with it. You spend your whole life climbing the ladder of success, and then you find out your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. You should have climbed up that one. So there's no success without getting clear on your values and, you know, ironing out and working out what's most important to you. So if this is aligned with your values and it is really important to you, then once you've got clear on values and once you know that that's what you want, then you can set your goals and develop your plans, and then you work on your commitment and overcoming the barriers to doing the plan and doing the work. And then you've got to deal with, you know, relapses and plateaus and all that stuff that happens along the way. You know, the fact that you decide what you want, you release some barriers to going for it, you decide, right, I'm going for it, and then you know, this is aligned with my values, this is perfect for me. And then you apply for the new job and you get the job and you're finally getting the money that you want, and then your car breaks down, and then
Right.
now all your money has to go to a new car, and it's like,
Oh
what?
no.
You know?
And that does happen, right? I've seen patterns. Yes, like
nobody achieved anything significant without stuff like that happening. Relapse is a part of all significant change in life. It's never just always onward and upward and perfect and so on. And so if you realize that when that, you know, there'll be those things. When they happen, you can get back on the horse and go and keep going.
Right.
You know,
I love that. I think that's such an important point to remember, is that because we've cleared some of our beliefs, doesn't mean the road is forever clear from now on. And you know, I said something to a group the other day. It's like, because I'm a tapper doesn't mean nothing bad happens to me. I have cleared so much, but honestly, things keep coming. That's just the nature of life. It's this unpeeling, this unlayering. There's always something, seems to me, there's always more
and if
to
it
work with.
didn't come, you would create it, because you'd get bored. And so you're like, and once you go to the next level, then you go, well, why don't I go to another level? You know, and then it's like, you know, I think things are doing really well, and then it's like, okay, let's have another baby, you know.
Let's bring in another level of challenge. This one is boring. I know how to deal with that one now. Yes. And that makes me think, a little while ago in a session, I was working with a client with your intention tapping, and it got to such a calm place in that session. And eventually it was all about, you know, more problems, they just keep coming. And eventually said to me, well, I'm a little bit like shocked to find out that I don't know how to be with life without a problem. It'll be so boring. So she had that realization, like, well, these things actually keep it interesting, or to some level it's part of our growth, or just why
we
here.
want challenge, we want growth, but the challenge and the growth has to be non-overwhelming. So this is the thing, you know. And I always say, like, if you're in the quicksand and you're going down, then you need help, okay? And you're not going to you know, decide, sit there and visualize and whatever. You need to get a branch, you need to get a hand, you need to get solid ground, you know, you need to get out. And this is like, if we talk financially, this is where you do things like your contact in virtually every country that I know of. There are free counseling services to help people to get out of their financial difficulties. And there are people who dedicate their whole lives to doing stuff like that. And no matter how far you're down in the quicksand, you can get out of it. And there are ways to do that. And you know, the people who do that work are wonderful, wonderful people. And they're not just counselors in the sense of counseling you to feel better. They give you real strategies to get on top of these things. Do you know, a lot of people don't know that a lot of debt in this world gets written off because people can't actually necessarily always pay it. And including, like, people declare bankruptcy. Well, when they declare bankruptcy, a lot of those people who are owed that money, they just don't get that money. That can happen. And if it's your business relying on that, that's a problem. You have to either suck it up or absorb it or work out a way around it, and so on. But if you're the person going bankrupt, you probably don't want to do that. But if it's the best thing for you at that time, that's what you do. One of the people, I think it was Mark Victor Hansen, very successful. One of his first books was How to Go Bankrupt Yourself, because he had actually gone bankrupt himself. And then he wrote a self-help thing for people about how to do it. And here he is years later with hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever it is, you know. Well, I know they had hundreds of millions of people bought their book. So if they paid $1 each, they must have made that much money.
Yes. Very successful. That's fascinating. So saving yourself money by going bankrupt yourself, that's
that's in America. There's, you know, the bankrupt laws are different in America to what they are in your country and mine, and so on. But I'm just using it as an example that if you're, whatever stage you're at, is where you've got to work with. And so you've got to start from where you are. And one of the first things is, if you need help, you need to get help. And we can't do everything on our own. Yes. And so sometimes we need people to help sort us out because things have gone too far.
Yes.
Yeah, I look back, I haven't always been good with money. In fact, I'm only just getting good with money, really. And years ago, I was earning a lot more money and wasn't holding on to any of it, wasn't keeping any of it. So it doesn't matter how much you bring in, how much of it do you get to keep, and how much of it do you get to use, and how much of it do you get to spend on things of value to you, whether the things of value to you are contributing in the world or having fun or having adventures or using it to shower the people you love with gifts or whatever it is. But anyway, I remember looking back on time years back, I had $46,000 of credit card debt. Now, that's not a lot for some people, but it's. I look at it now and I think this is ridiculous. You know, like I was paying about 20% interest on those credit cards back then, 21% interest. Outrageous. Yes. But we had so much money coming in, you know, that this is all just kind of working.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's so interesting, all the things that can happen around money, and then our thoughts about it change, or our energy somehow around it changes, and different things can then happen, or we want different things to happen suddenly.
And we become open. So where you start is you start with tapping on where you are, of course, and your own blocks and barriers. And then you can become open to accepting help, or even to seeing the help that's right in front of you. The ways to become rich financially are available in your local library for free, online for free. The only problem is sifting the BS from the really good stuff, because everybody is saying, hey, I can make you rich. Just cross my palm with silver and I'll make you rich.
That's one way to get rich, is to promise. Here's the way to do it. Yes.
In Australia, there's a guy named Scott Pape. He calls himself the Barefoot Investor, and he has a book called The Only Money Guide You'll Ever Need. And I know that more than 1 million people have bought that book and made really practical changes from doing it. A lot of other books on money are all about got to change your mindset, and all. It just gives you practical things like, here's how to contact your credit card company to get your percentage, to get your interest fees reduced. Here's how to contact your bank to get the interest on your mortgage reduced. Here's how to contact your bank to get the fees that you're paying taken off. You know, all this stuff. Like, we had accounts where we were paying fees, and then I was like, oh my God, really? There's like thousands of dollars in fees over a year. And then you ring up it's simple, you ring up the bank and you say, well, I don't want these fees anymore. And they say, oh yeah, you've got one of our old products. They don't tell you when they create new products. They just keep taking your money away, and just stuff like this.
Wow. So there's some really practical help for wherever you are. We start there, get the practical help to get it into a better financial position, and then we can start working out again. Now, where do I want to go?
Right, that's right. And you might have to use tapping to get over, like I said, get over asking for help, get over having to look for practical help, get over your belief that you're going to win the lottery or whatever, Right,
the fantasies.
Yeah. And great, if you win the lottery, good on you. I guarantee you, for everyone that wins the lottery, there are thousands and thousands of people trying to manifest that and not quite making it.
Yes, and absolutely. And another thought that came to me earlier is, even the people who do go bankrupt, if they were a billionaire or a millionaire, whatever, it's kind of like they know how to do it again. They don't stay there and forevermore say, okay, well, I've lost it all now. Oh, woe is me. They know how to get back there. So it's like back into action.
Exactly. They know how to do it, and they have the belief that they can do it. So you do have to work on your beliefs, because your beliefs can be blocking you from even seeing that that's possible for you and all that stuff as well. But yeah, it's just fundamental things. Like, I see people in business, and I remember one guy, and he's created this engineering empire, and he just loves it. And my friend was trying to talk to him about visualization, and he kicked him out. Because it just he didn't want to have anything to do with him. It sounded like such ridiculous woo-woo for him. And here's a guy who's got millions of dollars, and my poor mate was trying to tell him what he should be doing, and just frankly, my mate and I weren't earning anywhere near as much as this guy. And
Right.
this guy's made money because he likes to help people, and he likes to and he knows what a good deal is, and he helps people to create good deals, and he knows engineering and how to get people to create things that people need for their projects. And he just loves that. And there he is, manifesting all the money that his family needs and that he needs by delivering value. That's the reliable way that people are making money in this world. Not just because they're setting up a crypto account and getting lucky because they did it on the week when it went up, not the week when it went down.
Right.
You know?
Right. That whole thing is so important. The value that we produce, the contribution that we make, and we invariably get something in return. So there's a little a big question, maybe, like this is another big conversation, but about the difference between our personal worth. Just because I'm a human being, I'm a worthwhile, I exist, therefore I'm valuable. It's just like our intrinsic value as a human being versus the value that I offer, and therefore that I can expect money for in return.
Stuff all the time because they say, oh, I'm not charging what I'm worth.
Yes.
I'm like, well, this has nothing to do with that. This is, if you put yourself, it's what you are worth, then, oh my gosh, well, then you're only a dollar figure or whatever that is. That's ridiculous. No dollar figure can ever encapsulate what you're worth or be anything to do with that. It's to do with the value that whatever you provides for that person. And if you can, my mentor, Alan Weiss, says the client defines value. The client defines value. It's what it's worth to them. And so many people are so stuck in their own beliefs about this, about what they can charge or whatever. And they're not thinking about how the client is going to value this. So Alan, he goes into companies and he says, oh, okay, what's this problem? Okay, and what's that costing you? And how much will it be worth for you for that to be fixed? And they go, well, okay, so, you know, if we have 10% less attrition, then we'll make about $700,000 a year. And he says, okay, I can help you. And so then he knows that they value that at $700,000, and then he offers a project, which his project is that he'll help them for $250,000. And they're happy because they're not only making the $700,000 minus $250 that year. Every year they get the $700,000 benefit from that. Because people in business, they talk about the bottom line. What's the bottom line? The bottom line is how much money I get at the end of the day. So if I've got something if I come to you and you've got something that's costing you $700,000 and I can fix it and I charge you $250,000, now you've got $450,000 that you didn't have.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right, well, let's use figures that other people can relate to, because, I'm not running around doing $250,000 projects with corporations, although I have done plenty high five-figure projects, and for things that I previously would have charged a lot less for.
Right.
A lot less for, because I started to look at what the value was for the clients. Like we did a project for another completely different engineering company to the one that I mentioned, and we helped the chief operations manager to get over his public speaking fear, and helped him to work on a presentation for a project that brought in $29 million to the company.
Woo. Goodness.
Now, when that brought in $29 million, do you think our $45,000 fee looked like very much?
Small little drop in the bucket.
Yeah. But anyway, I was going to say, let's talk about things that other people talk about. So if you're earning $100 and I say to you, okay, look, here's a simple thing. If you do this, it'll cost you $50 and it'll bring you in another $100 with no further work from you. Will you do it?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
you would do it every day, wouldn't you?
For sure. It's such a
Yeah.
return.
If it
Yes.
was ethical and if it fit with your business and it was, it was serving your customers and it was feeding your family and doing all that good stuff. Like, so, it's got, to me, if you're going to do things with integrity and with good values, and that's what the whole thing to me is about. Like, my thing is, okay, I know people are going to strike it lucky. I have a friend who made a heap of money on crypto. It just happened to do it right. And I know a lot of people that are working systems to do those things, and all that's great. But I make money through my business through providing value, and I like to help people to do that too.
Yeah, so it really does fit in with a value system. It's like maybe some people that, dabble is the wrong word, but who work in this stocks and investing or crypto, whatever. There's a value for them about doing things that way. For us, it's about helping people. It's about the people that we can impact
And
in
it's not that
positive
there isn't
ways.
anything in the crypto world that creates value. In fact, people have value with some of these, non-fungible tokens that they get. That gives them a unique thing that they have. It makes people members of a community. They become part of a club. It's the same thing with online things where people get involved in online communities and all that kind of stuff. So the same fundamentals apply, is that what people want that's going to give them value is what they'll pay for.
Yes, yes. And a quick question. Well, you talked earlier about going into a company, and it's maybe easier for them to say, what is it costing you if you don't have this thing, right? Because they think in money terms. If you talk about, say, people like us working with clients, and because I work with sensitive introverts who have a business, say, and they can't ask, their client doesn't always know what does it cost them to have the problem in money terms. So how can we work with that?
Yeah, well, because people don't always think that, that some people will spend more on hamburgers than they will on their health.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And like, they might spend $1,000 on hamburgers a year, and then they balk at spending $300 to something that would make them happier, or healthier, or get them over their fear or whatever, because we have not learned to value our life energy. And this is the thing about money too. A lot of people are giving up their life energy for money. This is the problem, is that, you hear about people selling their souls. People do sell their souls for things, and they lose their life for money, and then they drop dead. And, it's like the operation was successful, but the patient died. Well, no, actually. You've got to consider both your life energy and the money. And so if you're not valuing your life energy, then, and so the question always comes down to values. What does that person really value? Because people will say that they don't have the money. They do have the money. They've just got it in a different box and they're spending it on something else. And at the moment, maybe they value those things more than this. So unless you're actually going to touch on a major value for them, then they're just not going to spend money on your thing.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And we can't make people want something that they're not ready to want yet. The same as we can't make ourselves want things that we're not ready to want.
Well, that's right. And then in the tapping world, you have a double barrier, because people who do tapping try and tell people about tapping, and the person's like, what? And yet, what they should be talking to that person about is that person's problems, that person's needs, that person's values, that person's goals. And then if they can help that person to see that they can help them to achieve their goals and solve their problems, the details about tapping are not relevant. It's the value.
Yes, what's it going to mean to that person in their life if they can have what they really want? Yes, I love it, Steve. Well, This conversation has been super and fascinating, and I know there's a lot more depth here that we can explore. And maybe for today, we'll close it there. Are there any, like, let's say, last thoughts that you want to share, and then I'll ask you about your website and what you're offering next?
Oh boy, okay. Are there some thoughts that I want to share? Well, number one, if you don't know tapping, look it up. I presume everyone who watches your things knows tapping. If you don't know
Maybe
about
not.
intention, if you don't know about intention tapping, intentiontapping.com, go to my website and find out. This process has changed my life and changed the life of my clients. And I was just talking to my friend about something, and I'm just going to put this in my newsletter because I was astounded. I'm like, my friend's saying, oh, what are you doing on the weekend? I'm like, oh, I'm going to be cutting some hedges, right, at my house. Now, I always used to pride myself on, like, I hate doing that stuff. I pay other people to do it, okay? Well, now, that's because I always had all this angst about doing this kind of home handyman stuff. And I said to my friend, I'm actually looking forward to it. And then I heard myself saying this. Wow. And I'm like, what the? I'm looking in my wildest dreams, I could not have thought that I could look forward to something that I hate.
Yeah.
And that's happened. All right. So no one who's listening wants to feel good about cutting their hedges, right? But if they hate marketing, like I used to hate marketing, you know, and if you've got a business, then you hate marketing, it's going to be very hard to have a business because you're not going to be letting anybody know that you have the business. Or if you hate selling, then yes, you can use the tapping and you can use intention tapping to release those attachments so you can go forward and learn the processes and do the strategies and do the thing and get it done. And, you know, the same thing with money. If you have these bad feelings about your capacity to earn or what you think you deserve, you can use it on that. And so I recommend doing that. And it's really, you know, there's lots of free stuff on our website. There's lots of free stuff online at my YouTube. Wells Down Under is my YouTube channel. Really came up with a good one there. Anyway, they can go online and find those things and learn some of the basics and do some of that stuff and maybe get over some things and go for it. And yeah, just you can have what you want. You may have to work for it, but you can get over your aversion.
Yes. Yes, I think that's just the beautiful point is there are aversions that we have. We grow up with all sorts of things that give us all sorts of barriers to taking action in certain directions, and you can get over it. That's the hope here, is we can offer people.
Reality. It's been my experience. I could not have believed some of the things that I believed about myself that were self-evident, and it was just my lot in life, even though I changed all kinds of things. Some things I hadn't even thought to change because I didn't even think they could be changed, and they've changed.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
And say a few words about intention tapping if you want, Steve. What is different between tapping, that everybody knows, EFT, and intention tapping?
Okay, well, there are a number of differences. One is the simplified version of tapping we use, and the other thing is the types of intentions that we use. So people often think about intentions as affirmations, and these are quite different because number one is they work. You know, most people find that affirmations don't work for them, and the reason why is because they're coming up against their own internal resistance. These specific intentions that I discovered release the emotional attachments that are in the way of us being able to make changes in our life, and they restore the energy back to flow and balance. And when you're in the flow and you can go with and flow with what happens, then you can live your life in a way which is much, much better than the way your mind has been telling you.
Beautiful. That's a lovely, lovely description. So you said intentiontapping.com is the website.
Yes.
And you offer
we
level
also
1.
have EFTdownunder.com, which has a bunch of stuff on it about tapping and lots of resources and so on. And both of those websites are about to have a revamp. So looking forward to that in future. And everything will be looking a lot nicer than it does right now, because we got hacked last year despite our beautiful thoughts and manifestations and intentions and so on. And so now the sites are not looking perfect, but they are safe and secure and so on. And now we're getting them recreated in a way that will look and feel a lot better for the people who use them.
Awesome. Awesome. And there's a lot of free resources there. I've been going to that website for years. So wonderful. So Steve, thank you so much for this wonderful and I feel valuable conversation. It's certainly brought up a lot of good things to think about, a lot of ideas to tap for. We can use intention tapping to clear all of these things that are in our way to taking action and to being the best us that we can possibly be. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a lovely, I didn't think on a Friday afternoon that the energy could go up, but it has. So thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks to our listeners. And my name is Liesl Teversham and I work with sensitive introverts, and you can see more about me on my website, savvyselfgrowth.com. Thank you, Steve, and have an awesome weekend.
Thank you, you too.